Wow, a lot of
就因为在娱乐圈28，我觉得不应该算是小年龄吧。所以你是觉得到一吗？到几月的时候？
Okay. Hopefully now, yeah, all of you join the room at the moment. Still a waiting room. For the security reason, we set up waiting room, but it seems like it's take a lot of time to meet all. So now we will start our tutorial, not tutorial, our workshop session today. And that will be, we will discuss revision questions. Okay. And first, to start, do you have any questions about accounting analysis and financial analysis part that we covered over the last 2 weeks? Please feel free to ask me or drop questions on in the chat box, so I will answer the question. And now we will start our discussion or live session today. So the live session, we have 3 parts, right? 2 parts. The first part we have accounting analysis, and in accounting analysis we have 3 questions. So the first questions we discussed, question 1A. Many firms recognize revenue at the point of still, sorry, I keep receiving waiting room. So many firms recognize revenue at point of shipment. So it means that firms, they record after they ship. At some point after they ship, they start to record revenue. And the question in this scenario is, we have 2 firms. One firm, they the first they will sell over a quarter or throughout the quarter, but the second one is they just sell or ship at the end of or in the last 2 weeks of the quarter. So we will in general, if they sell the same amount over the quarter, so the revenue should be similar, right? The way we record. So how can we distinguish which company they sell over a period and which company they just sell until the very end of the quarter, and then they start to ship to record revenue? And in this scenario, actually there is no difference between company in income statement, but on the statement of financial position, there's different. So what are they, and do you have any ideas about that? So I think I will explain in the meantime. And if you have any ideas, please feel free to. Yes, trade receivables. Correct. Trade receivables will be different. Why trade receivable different?
Dates of payments are different, thereby, I mean, as you said in the task, there is a difference in the number of days when their consumers pay for the services. So
yep,
there will be difference between these two, between their ratios.
Yeah, that's a good question. Good answer. The point is the difference in the trade receivable, right? If they sell throughout the year and the trade receivable, um, if no, sorry, throughout the quarter, right? So at that time, if they will receive higher cash and lower trade receivable because they sell over the period, and even they record at the time that a company ship, and they got the short period to collect cash, right? So therefore, for the company they ship, even live throughout the quarter, they have higher cash, but they have lower trade receivables, and another way around for the firms that they ship over the last two weeks, so they receive lower cash and they have higher trade receivable because they will be able to collect those cash at some point in the future. So that's the first one we analyze. And because of the trade receivables, right? So affect trade receivable and affect cash. Therefore, when you analyze this firm, you also look at the trade receivable, day receivable, and cash ratio. So in here we have sell over trade receivable, right? So the company worth even sell will have higher receivable turnover, whereas the company and they have lower day receivable because they already receive it, right? And the company worth they spread over the period. They also have more cash as well. Yeah, so very good answer. Now we will move to the second scenario. And where can you find this slide? This slide I will, or actually I will upload the answer on Moodle after our live session today. I will post in this slide, but you will have, I will write in a whole document, so it will be easier for you to read. But if you like this, I will also post this for you. The second case is that a company may try to paint a favorable picture of itself by accelerating the timing of revenues or estimating the collectible amounts too aggressive. In this case, the quality of accounting information declines because it does not represent the company's true economic condition and may not be sustainable. So in this case, the requirement is list four conditions which might suggest that the company recognize revenue too early. So before we answer this question, let me remind you again about the A scenario and this scenario. Both scenarios they based on the revenue recognition at the point they record revenue, right? And remember that when we discuss in the accounting flexibility and accounting choices, revenue recognition is one of the points we should look at, and we see whether the way they record revenue is correct or not. But in general, they should follow IFRS 15. They usually mention that in their financial statement. So therefore, we can say that they follow IFRS 15. But what we can conclude from our accounting analysis is that we can see that whether this firm they have aggressive accounting choices or they have a more conservative accounting choices. Okay. So therefore, the second case here, when we see that the case to summarize this case is that some firms they try to make revenue better by increase by like kind of they exaggerate the amount, and also they based on the timing of revenues like the previous case. So this affect revenue recognition and also affect the cash and trade receivables. Yeah, and so that is the main idea of the first one. Okay, so now we analyze this case. So which conditions that we can, or based on all the information, how can we know or we distinguish which firms recognize revenues too early? Do you have any ideas? And please feel free to drop the messages or raise your voice or raise your hand. What do you think? Which firm or which characteristic on financial statement we think that based on that we compare to other firms. This firm maybe recognize revenues too early. Any idea? I want to make actually different options, but actually I couldn't set up this Zoom, so please feel free to raise your voice. So yeah, I don't have option for you to click or something, so please feel free to raise your voice. What do you think? Which for how can we know that a firm recognize revenue too early? So in here, I suggest 4 conditions a firm recognize too early. So if they recognize too early, it means that it can be that they're more aggressive, they're less conservative, and therefore they have large amount of uncollectible amount receivables. Okay, so what firms that they record a lot of bad debt, as I mentioned in the in accounting analysis part, they record lots of bad debt, or they record provision for doubtful debt. So it means that can be in the past they too aggressive, they record that too early, and then that's the record bad debt or provision is the way that they reverse the revenue recognition in the past, right? Because that's what they think that this can be, it's just the consequence of the past. So when we look at when a firm record a lot of bad debts or a lot of provision for doubtful debt, this can be a signal that in the past they may be too aggressive or in recognition or to recognize the revenue. That's the first one. So so please have a look at bad debt or provision for doubtful debt. That's a signal of the past information, right? Because what we do is we look at the current point to see firm's performance, and what bad debt and provision for doubtful debt, that's the consequence of too aggressive sale recognition in the past. So that's the first one, and also the second one is also the part of provision. But provision in here is from the collecting the return goods. So sometimes they sell, but they don't record as like something they preserve for the future. So therefore, it's also a way or kind of a signal that in the past they're too aggressive. And another thing is that they have a very high quarantine expenditures. Quarantine expenditure record when they need to do something to give quarantine, right? And if they record too much, it's also it reflects the information from the past. So therefore, in the past, they record too high or too aggressive revenue. And another thing is about again receivables. Receivable is a very important information for us to see how much we will be able to collect cash in the future. However, on the other hand, if we record a lot of receivable, it can be a problem that whether in the future we will be able to collect this cash. But the good thing of sale on credit is that we can we give customer more choices, right? They're happy that they can buy something in advance and then they pay at the later. So therefore, they increase firms can increase competitive advantage, or they can compete with competitors in terms of sale. However, if we too relax in trade receivable condition or outstanding, or how long we can collect those trade receivables, it can affect cash position in the future. And please have a look at this point when we analyze our financial ratios. Okay, so that about the first thing. I have a chat question: is these 4 conditions can view as potential red flags? Yes, one of the potential red flags is exaggerating or kind of aggressive in sales. We can if you took very conservative kind of conservative, you can say that it can be a potential or red flag. Yeah, we can conclude it. So it's more likely to have a potential red flag in terms of revenue recognition. Yes. So yeah, you're welcome. Please feel free to ask me if you have any questions. And as I mentioned, revenue recognition is quite important for us when we analyze accounting analysis, because that is the starting point in the income statement. Okay, so in the income statement, we have a lot of sales, and there is a fact profit, and then cost, earnings, right? And therefore, that they look at revenue very careful, and from the firm aspect, they recognize that, and then they also try to do some like credit sale and affects credit sale. And from actually from the regulators, they also realize this problem, and normally both like auditor, they also check this quite careful, but somehow there's still mistake from the revenue, as if you read many cases in reality, many firms, they still like kind of extrapolate revenues in reality. But it's yeah, a point for us to start. Now we move. Do you have any questions? And if you have any questions, I can answer if yes. Okay, so now we move to the second. No, the third one, because the second case is quite simple. So to save your time, please have a look at the solution of the second case. Okay, the second case, the idea of the second question is when we look at financial statements, you remember to look at non-recurring items. And when non-recurring items, what are they? They are something like in this case, you can see about that score. We will discuss about this in a few minutes. But the point about like something about restructure, something about non-recurring, it's not happen like kind of frequently over time. So therefore, sometimes firms try to do some non-recurring items to either they increase more in expenses, or they can reverse that, and therefore they can have higher profit, or sometimes they try to make lower profit. For example, like Tesco in this case, therefore read the restructure or non-recurring information. Okay, and another point is when you look at fiat case, if you have a look at on Moodle, when we restructure or recast financial statement, we take profit and then we add up the non-recurring, because non-recurring is the item that can be something abnormal, and therefore we add back. And please have a look at the fiat case. Okay. Yes, I will upload the answer after our workshop. Okay, our live session today. Because like normal tutorial, we should prepare it at home, read it at home, and we discuss, and then you will have solution. That's why you will have this after our live session today. Both my whole answer, including this slide. Okay, so now we look at Tesco. Tesco in February 2015 is like the Tesco kind of created a accounting scandal in the UK at that time. And what happened? The thing is, in 2015, Tesco still at the moment is the largest supermarket or grocery in the UK. But in 2015, Tesco made a huge losses, and actually in his we record 5.8 billion. But the before auditing is 6.4 billion. Okay, and they have a lot of losses during that time, and they claim that this is the highest losses over time until the highest the amount of losses over time in the past 40 years in the UK from until that time. So what happened with Tesco at that time? At that time, when they look at, they realized that the loss they record, the impairment loss of 985 million impairment cost, and so in that time they record that, and when in 2018, so in February 2018, it means that 3 years after that, they when we look at the auditor report, they mentioned that the increase in after 3 years, the profit of Tesco increased significantly. So after small profit in 2016, 17, and then suddenly 18 increase. And when they trace back the increase in 2018, they realized that actually the increase comes from the impact, the reversions or reverse in impairment loss that they record in 2015. So therefore, actually the increase in 2016 is not. No, 2018 is not because of the operating activities. It's just because of the reversion of impairment costs happened in 2015, right? So it's quite interesting to look at that, and we should know about impairments, and we should, from the analyst aspect, we should understand what the effects of impairment and when we value firms, and that is the case of question 3 that I provided to you. So in here, so why it's happened in 2015 like that, and then it's increased in 2018, and the term we mentioned that is a big bath, and as you can see here, I mentioned that in 2015, Tesco took a big bath. And what does it mean? What does big bath means? Big bath is when a manager record one-time event with a very huge amount of losses. Okay, so when you read a financial statement, you see suddenly there's one-time non-recurring item or one-time item that suddenly is like a huge loss. So what will we expect in this firm? We expect that when they record a loss of losses like that, at some point there's a potential that firms will reverse that amount to increase profit in the future. So what do we learn from this case? We learn is one-time item is important to read to understand. However, don't make one-time item as the item that affect our analysis. Okay. So when we see a very huge amount of one-time item record, for example, like impairment losses. Okay, so something about restructuring or impairment losses, that item we should take into account that maybe at some point they will reverse in the future, and that technique in accounting called cookie jar. Cookie jar is the jar is is a jar, Jar. So it's a jar, and we say it's a cookie jar. It means that we put cookie in a jar, and then at some point we will take this cookie out to eat in the future. Okay, so that's a technique in accounting, or in another term they call big bath, that record a lot huge losses and then reverse in the future for another purpose. Can be can make that a better performance. And normally it's happens when a new CEO step in a firm. When a new CEO step in the firm, sometimes they can show a very aggressive, very nice accounting information to make them like to make their performance very good. But sometimes they jet off that they record a lot of big bath, or they record a lot of record lots of expenses. Okay, and so at some point they will make the firm performance better, and this is real in reality. So actually big bath, we got 2 points of view. The first point is, if a firms they record a lot of losses, so they provide a better information for us in the future. So we think that in the future there will be a positive profit like that score. However, another point is there's sometimes that they record too much, and then they will not be able to reverse anymore, and then this can affect certain activities for firms. Okay, so this can be a signal for us to know that all firms indeed at the moment they have problem. So there are two, in general, there are 2 points of view about this, and to sum up in a very short sentence is look at non-recurring items, and remember, if they too special, try to exclude from forecasting, from financial analysis. When we do recasting, remember to add it back to calculate based on recasting or based on the alternative approach that I show you it for in the previous one. We have 2 ways to decompose ROE. Either we base on the traditional approach or we base on the alternative approach. And the alternative approach is the way we recast financial statement to identify different components to analyze. Okay. And so that's why I just analyzed. So from the impairments point of view, that is an indicator of red flags, and therefore we should look at that. And so it's just all the information that I just summarized as what I just mentioned. So please have a look at the slide if you want to see. Okay, so in general, based on 2 cases we analyzed, the first is about impairment loss. Revenue recognition, and the second case is about impairment loss. So we learned that first, revenue recognition is the first item we should look at to see whether there are any potential red flags issues. And another case is we will look at impairment, right, or restructure charges, impairment losses or restructure charges as an indicator for red flags, okay, when you do accounting analysis. So do you have any questions? Okay, I have one question. Can we say big bath or cookie jar can be manipulated only by accrual accounting? Can we send impaired by cash accounting? Can we say the big bath or can we say big bath or cookie jar can be manipulated by accrual accounting? Actually, big bath and cookie jar is the way they're more about expenses, okay? More about record impairment losses, about restructure charges, and it's appear in the non-recurring expense. And it can be, if we base on accrual accounting, it can be accrual accounting, right? Because it is record something happened during the year. Yes, we can consider it's based on accrual accounting in terms of in terms of the accounting policy. Yeah, in a big picture, normally that is about accrual accounting. Something happened during the year instead of at the cash accounting. And now, can we send impairment by cash accounting? Yes, we can look at cash accounting, and we also can look at earnings. That is the another discussion question in the financial analysis when we look at earnings and operating cash flow. And when what the impairment we don't record. If it's not cash, right? It's not cash out. And for the earnings, is that we record impairment expenses already. So therefore, at that time, earnings may be low. But what's the cash on the cash flow statement or cash operating actually at that time is still high. So therefore, we can send that based on your question, or we can have a look at to see what the real cash and how about earnings. Yeah. So we can do it. Yeah, very good question. That link with question 3. Another question is, a question about question 1, why excessive quantity expenditure can be a red flag of recognizing revenue too early. It's not okay. Red flag in this case is red flag of recognizing revenue is when they record too early. That is the red flag, and one of the point we can look at is the quantity expenditure, because excessive quantity expenditure. What does it mean about this case? Is that we need to pay a lot of quantity, right? So it can be that we sell a lot. And when we sell a lot, we recognize a lot of sale at some point, but we don't record the normal provision, because every year for every firm they have a normal percentage for firms that they may pay a normal quantity, or because of the products returns. Okay, so, but in this case, it's excessive. It means that a lot of products return back to the firms. Okay, so therefore, in this case, this means that they sell a lot, and as a result, they need to record a very huge amount of quantity expenditure. It is normal to record quantity expenditure, but it is abnormal if they record too large amount of excessive quantity expenditure, because they record fewer provision for the quantity expenditure when they decide to sell or record the revenue. Okay, so no, it is normal to record quantity expenditure, but it's not when they sell too much and then they just make a small amount for the provision as normal. So it can be very aggressive in their sales strategy. Yeah. Do you know when will we have results of our exams? Okay. For your individual assignment, you submit it on the 5th. So you will have normally the result will be announced after 3 to 4 weeks. Okay. Yeah. So that is the answer. So it depends on courses, but normally on average you receive 3 after 3 weeks. But if you if you have more, because our course with large amount of students, so it can be 4 weeks. Okay. Okay, now we move to another case to analyze financial analysis. What's the time now? So we have 20 minutes to look at financial analysis, and feel free to ask me questions. Okay. When we analyze financial performance, okay, I have one more question here. What about the result of our exams that we took at December? For the result that you have December, I think you will have soon, because we the result we finish, and then we have a meeting, the board meeting exam. So you may be able to have that soon. Okay, but I'm not sure about this. Perhaps you may need to contact the learning teaching support to ask about this question. Yeah. Okay, now we analyze, we look at financial analysis. In question 1, financial analysis, which of the following types of firm do you expect to have particular high or low assets turnover, and explain why? Supermarket. Do you think supermarket have high or low assets turnover? Just type high or low for me on the chat box. Assets turnover is we equal assets divided by average total sales. So supermarket have high or low? Supermarket have low assets turnover. Okay. Any idea? Okay, so supermarket have low assets turnover, high assets turnover. So now one low, one high. High, so normally high assets turnover. If you can type, can you explain why it's high assets turnover? Let's look at the here. We have assets divided by total sales.
Maybe because they have high volume of inventories.
So they have high volume of inventory.
Yeah, bigger than everyone else.
Okay, let's see the result here. They have high assets turnover, correct? Because they have high volume business, right? And therefore they have, as mentioned, from the inventory. Apart from the inventory, they also have warehouses and stores, and then in general they have high volume of sale, and they have high assets turnover. So that about supermarket, they should have high assets turnover. Now, pharmaceutical company, should pharmaceutical have high or low assets turnover? Low. Okay, so low. Pharmaceutical should have high or low assets turnover. Please type here. So I received two low. So in general, low or high? Low. Okay. Low. So normally in here, in general, we receive low. But pharmaceutical have high assets turnover because they have high sales, but they have low assets. Right? So they have low assets, but they have high sales. So they should have low. Sorry, they have high sales, but they have low assets, right? Because they have a lot of they sell, and normally they kind of monopoly, right? And for the low assets here, they normally just they have pattern, but pattern don't record. So what the low assets and high total sales here, so normally they should have low. Sorry, I have typo there. So it means high assets, low high sales and low assets. So therefore they should low. Sorry, this my mistake. Okay. So that's my typo. I will edit it before I upload on Moodle for you. And for the treasury, we'll have low assets turnover. What? Assets turnover equals sale over total assets. Yes. What did I type here? Oh, sorry. Yeah, I got mistake, and I think I got mistake in this formula, and I think I got correct answer in here, right? So it's they have high assets turnover because they have high sale and low assets. And back to this, should be sale here and total assets here. Yeah, thank you. Sorry. So I have correct answer here, but I have incorrect formula here. So it should be another way around. Sorry. So they have high sale and they have low assets. Therefore, they have high assets turnover. We're very sorry about that. For the treasury, we have low assets turnover. For the steel company, we have low assets turnover. Okay. Any question why we have low assets turnover about jewelry and we have low assets turnover about steel company? Okay, so if you don't have any question, we move further to here. Which of the following companies do you expect to have particular high or low sale margin and why? A supermarket, a pharmaceutical company, a jewelry retailer, or software company. And net profit margin, this is a correct formula. So we have net profit margin equal net profit divided by sales, right? How about a supermarket company or a supermarket should have high or low sale margin? Low. 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 Yes, the answer is supermarkets should have low profit margin, right? Because they, in general, when we look at this, they may have high sales, but actually in a very competitive market, they can have lower net profit margins. In general, the supermarket have low profit margin because very competitive. It's very easy for customer can switch from one company to another company. So it's therefore they got low margins, and especially for when this analysis can affect the first one, the step about business analysis, right? For a company that they operate in a very competitive market, normally they should have low margin. However, for a company that they operate in a very kind of monopoly or oligopoly market, it's hard to enter into the market. They have high sale margins, for example, like pharmaceutical company. Why the low assets? I guess maybe large intangible. Yes, they have low assets because they got high intangible assets, but sometimes it's hard to record intangible assets because it need to meet certain conditions. Or for example, they have patent, like kind of with the brand names or something, right? But brand names or patent normally for internally record or recognize brand names, they cannot record when they have no like kind of acquisition, right? So they have patent, but they can't record when it's just internally generated. Yes, please ask the question. I see one hand here, please. Please ask. I can see one raised hand. Yeah, please feel free to ask me a question. Okay, so for pharmaceutical, again, they have low assets. Okay. And in here, I also mentioned that they have patents, they charge for high monopoly, so therefore they have high sales margin. So what do we learn from these two cases? From here is we see supermarket very easy to move, and another is pharmaceutical company very hard to enter in. So therefore they different in margins, right? And they also different in assets turnover due to their characteristic. Therefore, when you analyze companies from different industry, we should understand characteristic of industry to analyze it, and should look at for certain ratios. We may focus more, but for certain ratio, we don't need to focus more. Jewelry and software company you can read later. And now we analyze further here. Okay, before I analyze fiat a little bit for you to prepare for your group work, we have four companies. First is a hotel. The second is travel agency. Next, a meat packing company, and then a pharmaceutical company. And now you look at company 1, 2, 3, 4. Based on balances, income statement, and ratio. Which one is a hotel company? Which one is a meat packaging companies, which one is a hotel and which one is a travel agency. So how about the first one? Therefore, look at again, hotel, travel agency, meat packaging, and pharmaceutical. So when we look at this, for the first one, so how can we analyze? For the first one, right, we look at everything, but the first one with inventory turnover ratio very high here. What high inventory turnover? Which industry you expect to have high inventory turnover? That's the first key point. The second is, now you look at number 2 and number 3 when you analyze. You look at inventory, and inventory here is very low. Which type of firms or industry may have low inventory? And therefore, when we analyze financial statement, we need to consider this point, right? For the low inventory, why they have low inventory, and don't say that, oh, they have low inventory because they have problem. No, it's because of the industry itself. And which industry or what type of firm have low inventory? Yes, for the hotel and travel agency should have low inventory. Okay, so therefore, if you choose different companies and even the company have low inventory, we don't say that, oh, they got problem. It's just because of industry, because of their agents, their travel agency and their hotel. Okay, and so now we know that 2, 3 should be travel agency and hotel. 1, 4 should be pharmaceutical or and packaging, right? So now, how can we distinguish number 1 and number 4 between packaging and hotel? We look at inventory. So packaging, meat packaging is similar to supermarket, right? And for supermarket, normally they should have high inventory turnover. Therefore, number 1 should be meat, should be this one, right? Should be meat packaging or supermarket. 2, 3 should be hotel and travel agency, and 4 should be pharmaceutical. So now how can we identify 2 and 3? So in here, number 2, they have no gross profit, no inventory, but high receivables. So therefore, they are travel agency, so we can buy in advance, right? But for the hotel, they have high property. So in here, we look at property here. Yeah, so they have very high property. They have houses or something. So therefore, it can be in the hotel part. Okay. And why the travel agency here low? Travel agencies, they don't need a lot of like buildings or something for hotel activities, right? So therefore, that's the way when we analyze industry in general. And something can be abnormal, but actually it's not abnormal. It's just because of industry characteristic. That's what we learn from this question. Okay. So do you have any question? So far, what we will learn for the first part is revenue recognition is very important to look at. The second point is from the expenses side, impairment losses or impairment recognition or assets impairments or restructuring charges also important. Therefore, we need to look at that. And when we look at that, this can affect our analysis. Okay, so it's about accounting analysis. About financial analysis, we have different ratios, and with different ratios, but different industry, they have certain characteristics. And when we understand the certain characteristic of a certain industry, we just sometimes it can be abnormal compared to other industry, but it doesn't mean that it's abnormal. It's just because of industry itself. And when we understand, and therefore when we look at industry or firms, when we compare, we just see how the numbers compare to the industry or industry on average, right? And if it's not too different from the average industry, so it's good. It can be outperformance from industry. Okay, so compare. So therefore, industry is important to look at ratio and don't pay too much attention to something normal. Yeah, that's the advice from the workshop today. Do you have any questions? How can we learn about industry quickly? Are there any website or any other sources? That the question. No, there's no website or no other sources that we can learn about industry. What we can learn is we look at the industry itself. There's some point that we need to understand about the industry. We know that for certain industry, whether it's hard to enter in or it's easy to enter, so it will affect them. So about that point as well, about the margin, right? So that's what you will consider when you know about whether monopoly or whether competitive market. And for certain characteristic about the industries, we know that, yeah, for example, hotel, so that services, so it's got low inventory something. So it just no, we don't have any website to read. However, as I suggested in the previous session, please read what access the analyst report on Thomson Reuters to see which point they look at, and that's a very good sources for you to learn from the real practice. Okay, so that's about the case for you to learn. And therefore, the first part about business analysis, about five forces, about SWOT analysis is important. That's a base for us to build at a later. Okay. Okay, so do you have any questions? So please feel free to ask me questions. Okay, and one more point is thank you. First, thanks. I received email over the weekend about the recasting, and I realized the mistake for my slide, and I noted on Moodle for you, and please have a look at that. When we look at the when we recast, if you decide to recast the financial statement, one question is how about the assets turnover of real estate industry? Real estate industry is quite quite special industry, right? They have a lot of assets. They because from their building or something, and they also have a lot of inventory. So therefore, the inventory turnover seem to be not very easy to turn over and low inventory turnover. So assets turnover, I think in this case, it also depends on the period, whether they can sell a lot or not. So in general, I think that it should be low for assets turnover, because it's very hard to move between to sell or something, especially based during the economic downturn. It's not kind of cyclical company, right? Okay, one more point I want to mention about fiat. Fiat case, last time we mentioned about this, right? So we will start from revenue, and then we analyze interest expenses, and we calculate net profit after tax. And there's a point of net operating, net non-recurring, and then we add it back. So it's okay. And when you do here, one point I want to emphasize is I forgot to mention to you at 5% here of operating cash. Normally, many firms, they operate based on credit sales or card sale. In this case, 5% mean that 5% of sale come from cash. Okay, so that's the point I want to show here. Another point is when we analyze based on the recasting or alternative approach, we know that different from the traditional one, we have spread time with financial leverage. And the spread is the difference between the ROA and the effective interest rate, so that the rate that we will need to pay. And if the ROA more than the real interest that we pay, so in this case it's good, and therefore the spread here is an indicator for us to see the efficiency of using interest. If you want to see whether firm they raise more debt or interest, right? So you can see the spread. If over time spread here increase over time, it means that they have more positive effects from the spread, and therefore they gain more from the interest that they now from the debt that they borrow. That's what I want to analyze here. Okay, so please have a look at the slide. In this case, if you have any questions, please feel free to ask me. And I thank you. Yeah, thank you for joining the session today. Okay.